Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world, one book at a time. This is Conceptual Compression. Today, we're diving into a pretty radical idea from the book Creating Christ. The theory that Christianity wasn't born from divine revelation, but was actually a sophisticated piece of Roman social engineering. Yeah, so let's get into it.
To get our heads around this, the historian Edward Gibbon really sets the stage perfectly. He points out that for the Roman government, religion wasn't really about faith. It was about function. It was a tool. And this single idea that a belief system can be designed for political usefulness is the absolute core of what we're talking about today.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's the 1st century, and the Roman Empire, for all its power, has this one massive, persistent bug in its system, a glitch it just can't seem to fix. That glitch was the province of Judea, which was stuck in this endless cycle of violent rebellion. It was a huge drain on Rome's resources and, honestly, a threat to the stability of their entire eastern border.
And look, this wasn't just some small uprising. We are talking about decades of nonstop, brutal fighting that all led up to the Great Revolt. Rome threw everything it had at the problem. Its best legions, its top generals. They burned Jerusalem to the ground. And still, the resistance just wouldn't die. It was clear that sheer military force wasn't working. They needed a totally different kind of weapon. So what was fueling this fire that just wouldn't go out? According to the book, it was the belief system itself. Think of it like a piece of software that was just completely incompatible with Rome's operating system. Messianic Judaism was all about a coming warrior king, a messiah who would kick out the foreign rulers. Its central command, you could say, was no king but God. Well, that's a direct threat when your whole empire is built around worshiping an emperor. This belief wasn't just a religion, it was a political virus. So here's the book's central claim. If you can't crush a rebellious idea with swords, you have to fight it with a better idea. The argument is that the Flavian emperors, the guys in charge right after the revolt was crushed, decided to do something brilliant. They decided to engineer and install a brand new social operating system, a kind of spiritual counterinsurgency. Now, when I say a social operating system, what does that even mean? We're not talking about code for a computer. We're talking about software for the human mind. It's a story, a set of beliefs, that once a whole population buys into it, it totally changes how they act, what they care about, and, most importantly, who they're loyal to. It is maybe the most powerful tool for social control imaginable. All right, so how do you actually write the code for something like this? Well, the book argues you embed it directly into the most powerful stories you can tell, your religious stories. The Gospels, from this perspective, aren't just historical records. They're a form of brilliantly designed social code, meant to be read and repeated and absorbed by millions of people until they become the new default settings for society. And this is where you can really see the genius of the design. They just flipped the script. The old code was about a warrior messiah who would fight the Romans. The new code gives you a peaceful messiah who says, turn the other cheek. The old code shouted, no king but God. The new code calmly instructs, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. It is a total 180-degree inversion of the original rebellious beliefs. Let's just break down the logic here, because it's really clear. You design a pacifist messiah. The new incentive? Rebellion is now a sin against God himself. And the outcome you get is obedience. You reframe authority, saying that earthly rulers are actually appointed by God. The incentive? Well, you better pay your taxes. The outcome is tax revenue. It's a perfect system for producing a peaceful, governable population. Okay, and now we get to what the authors of Creating Christ present as their smoking gun. Have a look at these two images. On the left, that's a coin from the Emperor Titus. He's the Roman general who sacked Jerusalem and destroyed the temple. On the right, that's one of the earliest known symbols for Jesus Christ, used by Christians for hundreds of years, a dolphin wrapped around an anchor. They're identical. So the book asks a very pointed question. Why on earth would a supposedly persecuted religion choose the personal emblem of their conqueror to represent their savior?
So, you might be wondering, if this whole thing started as a Roman psychological operation, a psyop, how did it end up becoming the world's largest religion? How did it manage to outlive the very empire that supposedly created it?
Well, the simple answer is that the system was just too useful to let go of. A belief system that encourages peace, obedience, and paying your taxes is an incredibly efficient tool for governing. It spread because it worked. It stabilized society.
Eventually, it became the official state religion of the Roman Empire itself, and for the next 1,000 years, it was the foundation for the divine right of kings all across Europe. It was the ultimate justification for power.
And this brings us right back to today, because this isn't just a fascinating historical what if. This argument has some pretty huge implications for how we think about power and belief in our own time. We tend to operate with this idea of a firm wall between church and state, right? We see religion and government as two totally separate things. But the book argues that this neat separation creates a kind of crisis in perception. It actually makes us blind to how deeply these systems overlap. And it stops us from seeing that belief itself can be, and often has been, a fundamental mechanism of power.
Which really leaves us with one final big question. If a story, a belief system, can be engineered to pacify a population and reshape an entire culture's behavior, can we ever truly say that the systems of belief that give our lives meaning and the systems of power that control our world are separate things at all?
This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis and Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon.
For a longer audio-based analysis of this topic, see the deep dive linked in the description.
If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.